Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to continue on with today. We're going to look at a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what I need to be checking out. Today's special selection comes at us from Kevin. It says Draconian, Death, Come Near Me. Keeping on brand, the second one has to be a Doom epic, and this is a classic. Thank you, and enjoy. So that's what we're going to be checking out today is some Draconian, Death, Come Near Me. Got my mind ready for some doom metal. Let's see what's going on. So I have a 3 pulse going on. Yeah, really warm vocals. Really warm string work. Yeah, gorgeous. Yeah, I really like the way the strings are playing off of the choral stuff that's going on in the guitar work. You got these nice little melodic lines rolling. A little slow for my taste, but I'm here for it. I'm meeting it on its terms. I knew going in this was Doom. Yeah. I love how the melody layering here actually gives a bit of an edge to this clean female vocal, and it's a really nice textural harmony idea going on there, textural layers. The chord progressions are gorgeous, and they have these really nice melodies over them. So since our vocalist doesn't have a pitch to it, it's more textural. We have a violin going on in the background, kind of carrying a sort of melody here. And having the vocals rhythmically line up with the bass kick gives it even, that much more punch as another rhythmic instrument or another rhythmic voice. Now, I've only picked up on a few of the lyrics. It seems to be about somebody on their deathbed, waiting, wishing death would come. Right there in the name, "Death Come Near Me." And I like how the song is the doom elements of just dragging your feet fits well with this idea of wanting death to come and just taking its time. There's a real longing in the music.
So I drown in the silence of life's short eternity. The tears fills the void in my heart astray.
Utilizing the same rhythmic element from the solo as the new bass rhythm and allowing the solo tone to move into a new melody. I like how the sound is widened out. The bass has more of a presence. I feel like the guitars have a bit of a wider sound. We have a crash or a splash cymbal going on in right hands. And as soon as I mention that, we bring it back down. Oh yeah, I forgot about the strings in the last section. So we have counterpoint and textural layering. It's really interesting how even the heavy parts never really feel too heavy, at least in comparison to some other of the heavier stuff we've heard on the channel. And I'm always like, yeah, this is pretty soft. And then we come back down to something like this. I'm like, oh yeah, this is soft. Yeah, I love moments like this because they showcase, without all the effects and distortion, their really solid melody and chord writing. A lot of it is on the simpler side, but they just do it with such precision and conviction. It's just done at such a high level. Wow. I like that moving piano line behind everything too. Is this the first time we've had the isolated female cleans? At least in her normal, comfortable range. Fade out. Alright. I think that's the only time we've heard the double bass kicks too. Feels like too much energy for the Doom song. Yeah, and that piano, what is it? The moving idea in the piano, dun 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 bum, something like that. There at the end on the fade out too. Yeah, there is definitely a lot that I enjoy in this that I thought was really cool, even though it's not typically my kind of listening. They do a lot of what I like really well. They just do it in a style that I have a long way of getting acclimated towards. So it is doom metal. The first thing that stands out to me is, of course, going to be the tempo. It is a slow song. It's in 3/4 or 6/8. There's definitely a three pulse going on there, and it's a bit on the slower end. We start out with some vocal. That's the second time. I think I want to say violins and I want to change it to strings, and for some reason my brain goes to vocals. We start out with the strings. They come in. We get some rock and heavy stuff after that. Some metal ideas with some tones and textures. But the tempo and that 6/8 never really go anywhere. It's a nice standard element to the entire track. Additionally, the atmosphere of the piece does a good job at sort of also creating a baseline idea for the rest of the music to sit on top of. And that goes alongside the tempo and the time signature. What they do play around a lot with, and what creates a lot of the diversity throughout the song, is chord composition and melody composition. Both of those, I would say, at least pertaining to this song in particular, is very much the bread and butter of the track. It's the most important part. It's the part that, for me, would keep me coming back. I'm sure a lot of people who enjoy this type of music would probably say the mood, the atmosphere would probably be the core aspects for them. As usual, it's fair. Everybody comes to music for different reasons. Everybody has different preferences. For me, the melody writing is definitely what kept my interest from start to finish. They have a phenomenal relationship with melody, and they know how to use it. Um, I'm interested if any of these, anybody who is part of the composition writing has classical training or has any sort of music theory background, or if these are just things that they have accumulated, skills that they've accumulated over the years. Noticing how certain notes go together and that they create certain tones they like, and then continuing to use those relationships, those chordal movements, that kind of idea, where they've learned theory through the process and might not know the words to describe what they're doing, but they know very well, and it's all very intentional. I'm curious which one of those methods or how they arrived at this point. Although I say that as if they're an old band, I don't know. This is a 2013 album, but I don't know if this was. I mean, if this was their first album, that would be pretty cool too. But I don't know how old Draconian is. But yeah, I am interested in if anybody has any sort of classical background on this, just because there is a real, like I said, intent. There's a strong intentionality in a lot of this melody and chordal writing that, to me, it seems very improbable that they accidentally landed on it, or that they were noodling around and found all of this that just works so well. Now, those two elements, the chords and the melody, are going to create a lot of the mood, the atmosphere, the emotions that the song brings up in listeners, and that's done very well. But the other part that really sticks out to me is their layering. And I mean their layering across the board: harmonic layering, textural layering, melodic layering, rhythmic layering. They have a very keen insight in how best to utilize the various voices they have access to amplify specific musical concepts. And they do it so well. We see so many combinations of things. We have, just in voices alone, we have textural harmonies between the growls and the female cleans. We have male cleans and female cleans. We have female cleans and female operatic. Maybe it was a high vibrato or wide vibrato. Sorry, narrow vibrato. A quick vibrato. Almost sounded like it was falsetto, which kind of to me gives it that operatic leaning. So we had the female cleans versus the female operatic. We had female cleans versus distorted guitar, and I mentioned that like right off the bat that um, the edge on the guitar, that distortion, uh, the the notes themselves lined up so well. They were so in tune. It was wild, and so the timbres begin to kind of blend into each other, and it gave the female vocals this bit of a an electronic edge to it, or an electric edge, I should say, not electronic, an electric edge. Just really wonderful textural layering there, and that's just the vocals alone, all the different vocal styles that were present. Sometimes they were done together. Sometimes we had some counterpoint. Sometimes we had some beautiful elements where they would start together, stay together, and then kind of do their own thing and return, and then stay together for a little bit and do their own thing. It's just, yeah, their lead writing, whether it's melodic or rhythmic, because I want to include the harshes in there as well, is just phenomenal. It is done so well. Um, then there's also rhythmic layering, and I mentioned one of the times when we had the isolated uh, male harshes. I mentioned that it was very sparse. There's lots of space between each of the syllables or each of the words, and they always landed on beats 1 or 3, or sometimes beats 1 and 3, which is the same time that the kick drum was going, and it gave those words extra punch. Now, interestingly, after this section, we brought it down a little bit. We entered into something that was a bit more serene, less heavy, less distorted. We came back up to this moment, though, and the same setup was here. We had the guitar, we had the piano, we had the drums, we had the male vocals, the growls. But this time there were more attacks per bar on the male growls. And sometimes they would line up with that 1 and 3, sometimes they wouldn't. And it was just this interesting rhythmic layering where we saw what if they were in tune with each other, and what if we did counterpoint rhythmically between the bass kick and the vocal, the harsh vocals. And it's just, yes, yes, so much yes. I love all of the ways that they play around with this. They have a rather small set of voices. We have a string set, an ensemble. I don't think I ever heard an isolated string, so I'm going to assume it was an ensemble VST. Um, we had the male vocals, we had the female vocals. They both did double duty. We had males, harshes, and cleans. We had female cleans and female operatic. A guitar, a bass, drums, and a piano. That's it. What is that? So like 6 or 7 things? It is not a lot. And they find a way to continue to reinvent what kind of combinations of ideas they can pull together, and in what way those combinations are going to play off of or play around each other. And this is just one song. Um, Although I guess this is just one song. Uh, I was going to say this is just one song. Imagine the different combinations that they pull out on other songs. But then the other side of the equation is this is just one song. Did they showcase everything that they do? And I'll be rehearing things. I'll lose that novelty factor of newness all the time on other tracks. It kind of goes both ways. I would have to listen to the rest of the album or another album and kind of see what they're all about. But right here, I will say that just hearing so many different combinations in a single song is just fascinating. It is such strong writing. And like I said, it is definitely what kept me listening from start to end, even though the tempo uh, and the atmosphere were not really pulling me in. Everything about the melody, though, constantly had me, honed in on it, just zeroed in, listening to it because it's done so well. They have points where they harmonize melody lines. They have points where they do counterpoint. There was a couple of sections where we had the lead guitar and the female vocals doing counterpoint with each other. Two simultaneous, separately identified melody lines. Even better was that we had that counterpoint going with the growls going at the same time, and the growls were playing off of some of the rhythmic stuff in the drums, so there's this double layering of counterpoint. And it's just, yeah, there is a ton of attention to detail here as far as layering, whether it's harmonic, texturally, or rhythmically. They know exactly where each of their instruments are and where they can fit in another instrument and how that instrument should be playing around or within what somebody else is doing, and it's in a similar area. And it is just masterfully done for 15 and a half minutes. It is, I could gush about this all day. If I went back and I did more of a normal reaction where I'd listen to something, pause it, and talk about it, listen to something, pause it, we'd be here all day because there's so many awesome moments in this song. I also really like the contrast though, and it's interesting because the loud parts, they stick around for long enough that it kind of becomes the norm. And I've talked about this before with contrast. If you want your loud parts to sound loud, you put them up against the quiet part. If your whole song is running at 11, it's not going to feel like 11. It's going to feel like 5 or whatever. It's the norm for the song. So if you want your 11s to sound like 11s, you can't have, full power all the time. You got to bring it back down a little bit and give people some contrast, give them something to compare it to. And this is a perfect example of that. The middle of the song sat within that heavy distorted guitar, just heavy wide section for quite a while. Maybe it was like 5 or 6 minutes straight, and it became the norm. The heaviness became kind of the background sound, especially as I was keying into a lot of the harmonic and melodic ideas. And then we shifted down to the quieter section, and it really caught me off guard. I was like, yeah, that wasn't a quiet section. That wasn't a calm section. But the fact that it had been around for so long, and of course the tempo isn't that heavy, and the tempo isn't that fast, and the guitars aren't. They have a nice warm tone to them. They're not as heavy and oppressive or even aggressive as some guitar tones that we've heard. It is definitely a more aggressive tone than your run-of-the-mill rock or pop or something like that. But compared to some of the stuff we've been listening to, I say that song's pretty chill. And it was a nice little reminder every once in a while, like, yeah, there is a normal layer under that. But what I'm saying is that it works in the opposite. I say that if you want your 11s to feel loud, you need to contrast them with something else. Your 11s are going to feel like 5s. The other way is true as well. I would say that if this heavy section were put into a Dillinger Escape Plan song, it would probably be about a 4 or 5, where their usual aggressive angriness is going to be like an 8 or 9. But this 4 or 5 felt like a 1 or 2 to me because, of where we were. And it took a really much lower section, a true 1 or 2 as far as heaviness and volume goes, to remind me that this is actually, more of a 4 or 5 here. So contrast is just really important. Without contrast, pretty much anything that you're going to play is going to feel middle of the road. You need that contrast to provide context for where it actually sits. And that can go for volume, it can go for dynamics, it can go for speed, it can go for complexity, it could be, anything. You always want contrast if you want your element to stand out. Let's see, what else? That might wrap this one up. The vocals, I do want to touch on the harsh vocals a little bit. They're interesting because they are almost as low energy as the song is. It's definitely a growl, but it feels like the most relaxed, muscled growl I've ever heard. It when I visualize the singer standing in a microphone in a studio or whatever, it's just whoa, 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 whoa. It's just I love how the energy of the growl matches the song, especially since growls are usually utilized, in my experience, to add emphasis and harshness and sometimes anger or some type of brutality, aggressiveness to vocals. This one feels like it's just done to fit in with the vibe of the song. Speaking of the vibe of the song, I touched on this a little bit. I'm glad I didn't end the video. I have more things to talk about. Um, I mentioned in the middle of the song that there's this strong lethargy to the track. The song is called Death Come Near Me. I picked up a few lyrics about, I think it's about somebody on their deathbed waiting for death to come and relieve them of this world. They're done. There's no chance they're going to recover from whatever their wounds are, their sickness or whatever. But death just isn't coming. They're just sitting here waiting. And I love how that element of longing and taking time and hyper aware. I would almost say this might just be because the song was a much slower tempo than I'm used to, but I was hyper aware of the tempo. Um, and the song seemed to drag on and on and on. I don't want this to sound mean or mean spirited, but there's definitely a point where I was like, okay, we should be wrapping this up. We're coming up to, an outro soon. And I look over at the runtime of my recording and we're only 10 minutes in, and I took probably a 1 minute intro to actually start the song. So I'm like, oh, we're only halfway done, give or take. We're 9 minutes in and there's still six left. There's just this part of the song that feels like it is taking its time to the most extreme. And part of that, I think, was just me being hyper aware of how slow the tempo is, and, really realizing, moment to moment, feeling the clock tick by. And, yeah, I think that plays along well with this concept of waiting for death to come get you. And, it's just not happening as fast as you want. And then, like I said, there's a little bit of longing in the song as well. Some of the chordal progressions have this feeling of want, waiting for, wanting something to happen, and it's just not quite getting there yet. And I think it all coalesces very well into the themes of the song. It's one of the few times that I think Doom has worked for me artistically, where the theme of the lyrics and the story narrative fits the themes in the music. I understand Doom is typically, at least to my understanding, more of an atmospheric thing. You listen to Doom because you want to feel that weight and that heaviness and the slower tempo, just get into that whole vibe. But I think this is one of the few times where I can appreciate it outside of just that element, bringing the lyrics into it and seeing a very strong relationship between the story told through the words and the story told through the music. All right, those are the end of my thoughts with Draconian's Death Come Near Me. This is where you guys come in, hit me up in the comments. Let me know if you enjoyed that one or not. If there's anything that stuck out to you that maybe I missed, or anything that I touched on that you think I should have went into more detail on and you want to talk about that, go ahead and let me know about any of that in the comments section. When you're done with the comments, you can head up to the description box. There's a link in there for Linktree. It'll take you to a nice menu with everything related to the channel. You can join the Discord community, support me through Patreon, follow me on Twitter, email me. I mean, look, there's a bunch of stuff over there. If any of it looks interesting, click that link. Above the description box, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. All three of those things help out the channel immensely. I'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC as usual. It's our penultimate day of the week. We're going to head into some more unique vocals, and we will watch our last special selection for the week. Of course, on Friday, the second video is going to be a creator request, and we'll look at something that a band has asked me to check out their own works. All right, until next time, remember to be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.